stops the expansion of the Indosphere, as you call it? Why does it stop?
So there's one other major thing before we do the decline, which is numbers.
Oh, okay, numbers.
Very important. And again, so every Indian uncle knows this, but the numbers that we call Arabic numbers in the West are Indian numbers, and the Arabs get them from the Indians. We get them from the Arabs, which is why we call them Arabic numbers, but their place of origin is India. And at a time when in Europe you're still getting long multiplication with MCVVXV1 times MCVVV1.
Does my head in just thinking about it.
The Indians have got 10 symbols, one of which is 0, which makes it all much easier. And they've got decimal place value and tens, 100,000, tens of thousands, and all this sort of stuff. And those ideas spread first to the Arab world. By a stroke of luck, the first viziers in Baghdad are former Buddhists who are Sanskrit literate and know all this stuff. And these guys, they're a family called the Barmakids, send a mission to Sind, and in 776, the Sind Raja, who wants peace with this enormous, very fierce empire, sends the works of Brahmagupta, who's this early Indian mathematician. It seems to be a sort of compilation of 2 of his books, which the Arabs call the Sind Hind. And this becomes the basis for Islamic maths and astronomy. It's simplified and clarified by a genius called Al-Khwarizmi. Al-Khwarizmi is from what is now northern Uzbekistan. And he writes a book which has a long, unwieldy title of the Book of Indian Mathematics According to Completion and Balancing. Now, that's too much of a mouthful in any language.
Sounds like a real page turner.
and so it gets known very widely as algebra, from which we get the word algebra. And his name, Al-Khwarizmi, the man from Khwarazm, which is Khiva, northern Uzbekistan, becomes the basis, Al-Khwarizmi becomes the basis for our word algorithm.
God damn it.
So there is the ultimate Sanjeev Bhaskar bullseye.
It really is.
Algorithm, Indian, algebra, Indian.
Oh my God. But so let's talk about
the decline.
The decline. So why does it stop? Is it just that, you've got these other hugely complex, well-armed, organised societies hemming in the Indosphere? Is it just that, I don't know, that you've got the rise of the Mongols? Like what's going on?
2 things, and you've already touched on both. So the first thing is in the 1100s, you get a bunch of Turks, and the inscriptions specifically call them Turushka, or occasionally Lord of the Horses. And these guys are new converts to Islam, pretty rough bunch of nomads, still tough, use horse archers. And they first overwhelm the Punjab, capture Lahore, and then they capture Delhi in 1192. And so you're getting an invasion of a bunch of quite rough people who've got no interest at all in speaking Sanskrit, like the earlier generations had longed to do. And Sanskrit by this stage has spread all the way from Kandahar in Afghanistan through to sort of Bali and Java and Indonesia. These guys are not interested in that. And then you get a second blow a generation later when the Mongols don't conquer India, but conquer everywhere else in Asia. And so you get
But they get really far down, like into Burma, kind of.
There's one little raid into Burma, but the Khaljis, who are the Delhi sultans, successfully fend off the Mongols, including an extraordinary moment when the Mongols come and invade Delhi, and actually the Tughlaqs let loose the sluices of this hydraulic system that they developed, and the Mongols are swept away in a sort of tidal wave. It's very impressive.
I thought ditches. I thought like horses versus ditches. Dig a good ditch.
A lot of all that. And then there's this other moment, according to one source, when Genghis himself, who would have been obviously the big mother of all disasters, he comes through the Punjab and he sees a rhinoceros and he thinks it's some sort of devil and turns away and instead destroys Poland in the end.
Thank God for that rhino.
But for that rhino.
Really took India a solid.
But the result of all this is twofold. One, you've got a hostile border now between India and the Mongol Empire. which stops traders passing over it. So what had been a very porous route for Indian monks and holy men going backwards and forwards to the northern half of the Indosphere is now cut. The second thing that happens is that a lot of the highly educated scholars and writers and teachers who had been living in what was the great caravan cities of Balkh and Merv and all these wonderful places in Central Asia, a lot of them flee to Delhi. And Persian becomes the language of government, not just initially in Delhi, but also eventually in the next 200 years, the rest of India, including Hindu India. It's the diplomatic language, it's Persian. So it isn't that the Sanskrit world disappears. It's never disappeared. It's still there now. But it's subsumed beneath a second layer, like sediment falling down to the sea. And then, of course, later on, you get the English, the East India Company, and there's a third layer. And you can look in this a variety of ways. If you're a Hindu nationalist like Narendra Modi, you can look at it and say 1,000 years of slavery. I, as an outsider, and I, in a sense, don't have a dog in this race, I'm coming from Scotland. To me, it's the richness of Indian society that you've got all this amazing Sanskrit stuff, all this amazing Taj Mahal and Mughal miniatures above that. And finally, you've got all these amazing people who can like Salman Rushdie, who can write English better than English, or Arundhati Roy. So it's a very rich layer cake. But as we know, the Indian nationalists have made a great deal of political capital saying that this is slavery, which I don't think is historically accurate, though it's certainly true that the initial invasions of the Turks in the 12th century was accompanied by temple destruction and a lot of iconoclasm. When you go around somewhere like Madhya Pradesh today, and a lot of the early temples just have their faces smashed in of all the idols and so on. So there is, as you know, a big culture war in India at the moment. We've got a Hindu nationalist government running the country.
And
and
also
this is all
tells
very...
a particular story about, there have been these Muslim hordes which have, invaded India, suppressed the culture, and they want to do it again.
Yeah, and that is a popular narrative, partly because a generation of left-leaning intellectuals after independence were so horrified by the violence of partition that they slightly downplayed in the history books the destruction that did take place.